Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to the very first episode of Hearts of Hope, where we will focus on the who, why, and how of the woman I refer to as real life Barbies. Each episode will feature a successful woman that will share her story and the advice she's gathered along the way. It's important for me to acknowledge how easy it is to unhealthily compare ourselves to these type of women. But throughout the episode, I want you to reflect and realize that if these women can do it, you can do it too. Thank you for joining, and please learn lots. I hope you enjoy!
Hi everyone, I'm Marizza Delgado. I'm a fashion model, a data scientist, and an advocate for women in STEM. I'm also Miss New York USA 2024. I just recently competed at Miss USA and placed top 20, and I'm excited to get this interview started.
Yes, I'm happy. I'm very, very happy and honored to have you. Okay, so I'll just get started into the first question. Looking back at your teenage years, what parts of your personality have remained consistent?
When I was growing up, I always thought that I was going to be a superstar when I grew up. And I think that had never left my, like, that has always been an innate part of myself that I knew that I was destined for something greater. And, growing up in San Jose, where it's not very, I guess, like an entertainment hub,
Yeah.
I always knew that I was destined to be somewhere like a big. And now living in New York City, it just like feels right. And honestly, has been such a dream come true to end up where and following my dreams as a young child.
Conversely, which parts of your traits have evolved over time?
I would say my confidence. As a teen, I was very much like hanging out in the physics room. I was very nerdy and I honestly like kept to myself a lot. But with pageants and with time, of course, I really grew into myself. And through pageants, I learned how to be the best version of myself, put my best foot forward. And, it doesn't hurt to reach out to people. And like the power of sisterhood is so real.
Is there any unhealthy habits that you're still working on overcoming?
My number one worst habit would probably be my sleeping schedule. There is never been consistent ever since high school, and something I'm definitely like still working on to this day.
No, yeah, for sure. For sure. As a high school student, it's tough. It's tough. Switching gears from personality traits to values, when you're making decisions, major or minor, what are the core values that you're keeping in the back of your head?
Yeah, so one of my core values is growth and continuous growth. My motto that I live by is be comfortable being uncomfortable. So no matter what, I'm always putting myself in situations where I'm really embracing the unknown. 7 years ago, I moved to New York all by myself, and I've never visited the city. And that's when I started my modeling career, started my tech career. And so if I really hadn't made that huge jump, I would have never been where I am today.
What has shaped your values? It could be experience, maybe religion.
I would say that my family has a huge part in my values today. So I grew up in a very loud Filipino Catholic household, and I feel like Filipinas are, we are very family oriented. We are hardworking. We do well. We make sure we do well in school. But we're also like feisty, talented, and altogether very multifaceted. So I would say that like my culture and my family has really shaped who I am.
Yeah. And lastly, on this who and why focused set of questions, who inspires you? Because to me, whenever I see someone that's just so inspiring, it's like how do they find their courage to do everything that they're doing?
Yeah, I would say that I really look up to my mentors. So when I was first looking for like what tech career that I wanted to get into, I looked at different women in STEM creators and also signed up for different mentorship programs where they match you, where they match a mentee with a mentor. And these women who are so fearless and are breaking the glass ceiling are the ones that are inspiring me the most. One of my really good mentors, Zara Chiara, she is a Filipina senior software engineer at Salesforce, and she has always inspired my tech journey. We grew up with very similar backgrounds, and that's why if she could do it, then why can't I? And as for pageants and modeling, I really looked up to Pia Wurtzbach. It was so surreal. I got to meet her during Fashion Week last month, and I was just like fangirling in the inside. But she has really broken the mold of what it means to be a pageant girl and what it means to be an ambassador and an advocate even after your reign. So that's hopefully something that I can follow too.
Yes, definitely. Okay, now moving on to our how. Feel free to interpret these questions however you'd like. They're more requests, actually. Could you please share the early steps of your modeling journey, like being discovered, what it was like moving down to the big city? I know you already kind of mentioned that earlier. Um, Take it away.
Yeah, so like I said before, I've always known that I was like meant for greatness. And so I joined Miss Pacific Coast Teen USA in 2017. I started pageants because I'm actually pretty competitive, and my cousin, who's the same age as me, competed at Miss Washington Teen USA. And I'm like, if she could do it, why can't I? So I won that pageant. I went on to compete at Miss California Teen USA. I didn't win, but I did get discovered by my mother agent in San Francisco, and they really saw potential in me. So when a New York um, agency scout came over to San Francisco, she set up a meeting with me, and from there, I was able to start my modeling career in New York. And at the time, I was 18, which was like the perfect age because I feel like there are some girls that get into the industry way too young.
Okay.
And I started my first New York Fashion Week. I did a bunch of jobs for like Nylon magazine, for Cosmopolitan, 17 magazine. Like it was such a exciting time of life. And then a, and then a couple agencies after that, I realized I wanted to get back to my roots of pageantry. So I started competing as a miss. And that transition is always like something that I took very seriously from a teen to a miss. Like as a teen, are you have these goals and like they're just ideas and aspirations, but as a miss, you are living out those dreams. And I competed at Miss Earth USA as Miss New York 2021. I got top 20 at nationals. Yeah, that period of life is so special to me because I'm an environmentalist at heart.
Yeah.
I work in sustainability tech right now, so it was just like the perfect pageant system for me. And then after that, I started competing at Miss New York USA 2022 because I had always wanted to end up in the Miss Universe system. Like that was always a big goal of mine. And then it took me 3 years to finally win the Miss New York USA title, compete at Miss USA, and now the rest is history.
Yep. How has modeling and pageantry shaped your lifestyle? Like, for specifically for health, um, for daily activities, your schedule?
Yeah, so there's a lot of behind the scenes that goes on with modeling, especially like with your health. You always have to make sure you're fit. With your scheduling, you always have to make sure you're on top of it. With your finances, you're an independent contractor, so you have to do your own taxes. And then also the biggest takeaway that I took from modeling was that you have to be comfortable putting yourself in those uncomfortable situations and be ready to challenge yourself. You honestly like have to be ready for like any shoot, any like editorial that comes your way, and just be very adaptable. I also another like number one piece of advice is word goes around in the industry is very small, so always show up to work with a good work ethic and like a smile.
Yes, speaking of advice, what advice would you give someone seeking to pursue a modeling career?
My biggest advice is to be ready to be challenged and be up for the challenge. Like one day you'll do a super like edgy editorial, and then the next day you'll do a beauty shoot. The next day you'll be doing New York Fashion Week. So no one day is like the other for modeling, and you just got to be up for the challenge.
Yes. So, moving on to your STEM career, could you share your high school, college, and current work experience and kind of how each step impacted the next?
Yeah, so I am a huge advocate for women in STEM, and I feel like it you can really nurture that love for STEM early on. I was really fascinated by math and science, thanks to Kumon growing up. And also, I went to my first high school hackathon. And at that hackathon, I was helping with this woman in STEM panel. And these ladies like were so inspiring to me. And also they're being a woman in STEM, there's a huge gap. So only 25% of tech roles are held by women, and only 10% are held by women of color. So with that huge gap, I feel like there's so much opportunity, especially financial opportunity for women to get involved. Um, and that's what really drove my college career. So I have an engineering degree, and from at UC Santa Cruz, I actually found my community. Um, like I had mentioned before, there's a huge gender gap in technology. So I feel like as a woman in STEM, you have to find that circle of women that will really support you. And I found that with Girls Who Code, who I work very closely with, their nonprofit that is changing the face of technology with their summer coding camps. And then after college, I got my first job at Etsy as a data scientist. And now I currently work at Rent the Runway. This is honestly like my dream job because I'm working at the intersection of fashion, sustainability, and technology. We are the closet in the cloud, and also we are the first company to IPO with a full woman C-suite. So that's a woman CEO, woman CFO, woman COO,
Wow.
and it's just so empowering to be working here.
Yeah. With that huge gender gap, did you ever face insecurity when encountering any, I guess, disadvantages with the stereotypes of women aren't usually seen in the STEM world?
Yeah, 100%. So that's why I do a lot of the advocacy work with Girls Who Code. Um, Being surrounded by women really like honestly gives you perspective and energy. And I want to see a future of technology where it's representative of the people that are making it. And so last week I went to Grace Hopper celebration, the largest gathering of women technologists in the world. And when I tell you like being surrounded by women, especially women in tech, and such an empowering space is honestly like I had the hugest smile on my face, and had just the best energy. So yes, I will say that there was some disadvantages being like the only woman in my programming classes, but once you find your circle of women that will support you, it's all worth it.
Yeah, so moving on to pageantry, you kind of touched it on it earlier about It's teaching you about confidence. But what trained you to be confident? How did you train to be confident on stage for pageants? Did you have a coach ever, or YouTube videos, your own research?
Yeah, I highly recommend coaches. So leading up to Miss USA, I had my directors provided me coaching, and these coaches, shout out Michelle Holmes, she helped with my interview, with my wardrobe styling, my all of my social media leading up to Miss USA because there's so many eyes on you leading up to the pageant. And also, I had Ian Lorenz, who is a walking coach in the Philippines. He did like FaceTime coaching with me. And honestly, like my Miss USA routine would be nothing without him. Like, he is the best at what he does. Um, and I had a lot of sponsors leading. I'm so thankful for all my Miss New York USA sponsors. They really helped me like with all my like spray tans, my wardrobe, and everything you can think of for pageantry. That really helped.
A huge part of pageantry is effective communication. So, what advice do you have for girls to effectively communicate?
I have a couple of tips for interview, but like number one is always bring it back to yourself. You never want to leave the interview room with the judges being like, who was she? Like, you want to be memorable. So always bring it back to yourself. And then I'm very strategic and intentional whenever I do pageants. And for the Miss USA system, our interviews are anywhere from 1 minute and a half to 3 minutes. So it's a very short interview. So I always make sure to be concise. But for the Miss America system, for example, those interviews are at a minimum 5 minutes, I believe, could go up to 10 minutes. So you can be very lengthy and like tell an anecdote, like tell them a story. So yeah, just make sure you are very prepared. Practice makes perfect.
How do you make sure that you are living a balanced lifestyle, and how do you manage your time wisely?
I'm such a type A person. I have multiple planners. I have a planner on my phone, one on my wall, a physical like book planner. So that's what keeps me organized. I schedule everything like to the minute. I'm honestly very plan A, and like at the same time, if something happens, I'll go with the flow, but that's how I stay balanced.
Do you have a specific method to setting goals?
Honestly, love at the beginning of the year, this is very basic, but I like putting mood boards together. Um, for the past 3 years, my mood board had Miss USA on it, and I finally got to do that this year. So yeah, I can't wait to see what my 2025 mood board is because I just did so much this past year.
What different responsibilities have you taken on with this new crown on your head?
Yeah, with this new crown, I had told the judges when I interviewed for the job that I want to leave a legacy that I led with empathy and kindness. I want to continue the work that I do with Girls Who Code. I want to expand the brand of Miss New York USA to bring more sponsors on and also use my network in the fashion industry to get the word out there that Miss New York, you should compete at Miss New York USA. And yeah, I've been having so much fun, like going to different charity events and like spreading awareness for causes that are bigger than me.
Do you have any advice for good leadership?
For pageant girls specifically, and you are leading your state, you're being a representative. So I feel like this also applies, but I would say that the crown attracts attention, but it's what you do with the crown that keeps their attention. And so after I won Miss New York USA, of course, I got a lot of like press after, but what has kept people's attention is that I've been very active with my advocacy for women in STEM with Girls Who Code. And also, I recently went to Grace Hopper celebration. So just making sure that, I'm actually doing the work as a pageant title holder and setting my successor up for success.
Could you please give me an example from your modeling, pageantry, and career in STEM? A lesson you've learned, a huge takeaway.
Yeah, my biggest takeaway is rejection is redirection. It took me 3 years to win this title. I was also recently laid off in December of last year, and it took over 100 interviews to land my dream job. And then for modeling, I don't get 100% of the castings that I go to, but I always remind myself that rejection is redirection and that like all of this is happening for a reason.
Thank you so much um, for giving me your time once again. I'm very grateful. I know all of the listeners learned something new. My last question is, what's something that people don't usually know about you?
Yeah, so I am the first Filipina Miss New York USA. And something that people don't know is that I'm actually learning Tagalog because I want to compete at Miss Universe Philippines very soon. So, yeah, that's happening.
Could you tell us anything in Tagalog?
Okay, but you have to respond to me.
I could try. I could definitely try.
Kumusta ka? Mabuti.
Mabute. Does that mean good?
Yes, and then you say mabuti at ikaw, which means and
Mabute at ikaw.
mabuti din. Done.
Done. Boom. Okay, thank you so much. It was
Maraming
great having you.
salamat.
Salamat!